Hello and welcome to Mediumship Matters, episode 6 already, with me, medium Hannah Macintyre. Hello everybody, how are you? Sorry it's been a little while. I've just been incredibly busy doing really exciting things like learning how to use new accounting software and other practicalities that you need when you have a business. So, today, what I wanted to do was take some time to answer some of the listener questions that I've had sent in. I mean, there's so many things that I want to talk to you all about. It's really hard to work out where to prioritize and where not to. So if you've sent me in a question, it's taken me a while to get back to you. I do apologize. It's not that I haven't seen you, it's just that I've been working through lots of different stuff. Okie dokie, so we are going to start with the oldest question, which came in from Cece, and Cece's got a couple of questions outstanding with me, so we will answer them both today for you, Cece. So the first thing is, she says, you mentioned you have been working with spirit for around 10 years. When you first began your journey, how did those around you, in particular your family, respond? And this is an interesting one because I don't come from a long line of mediums. My family are not psychics. And so at the beginning, for me, certainly, my journey was very private. I didn't, for a long time, feel ready to expose that side of myself to anybody else. And I think that was a real gift for me because I just got to explore it for myself. I got to integrate the lessons and the learnings. I got to play with spirit without any expectation or anybody else's stuff coming into it. So for quite a long time, I just sort of kept it on the down low. Now, obviously, my husband knew that I was attending a weekly spiritual development circle, but I don't think he really knew what I was up to. And I've always had this wonderful relationship with Alex where we both just let each other do whatever we want to. And I think that's really important. You know, we both have a real aspect of freedom because we know that we love each other and we know that the other one respects the other. So we just kind of let each other get on with it. So he kind of just let me get on with it. And I had this lovely couple of years where it was pretty much for me. And it was about my journey and my evolution. And then it happened very naturally, actually. I don't remember it being a conscious decision. But as I learnt more and understood more, of course, you start to change. And then what happened with me was I changed so much. It's a bit like you don't even realize that you're completely different to those around you until you drop some sort of weird spiritual clangor or say something weird and everybody just looks at you and goes, oh? And that's pretty much how I remember it being. Not that my family and friends were not supportive, just that they didn't really get it. So I wouldn't say there was massive reactions, but then it's not like, you know, you don't come out of the spiritual closets going, hey, look at me, I'm a medium. You know, you start talking about spirit, you start talking about messages you've received, information, you start telling people about experiences that you've had, and, you know, it just evolves naturally, or that's at least how it did for me. You know, my family are all very supportive. I think it's taken them a little while to get their head round it. I know that my uncle asked my mum if I really believed in what I do, because I think he's a non-believer, and so to them they couldn't quite get their heads around that I really do believe in the spirit world, that I really do believe in God, that I really do believe in angels. You know, I'm not saying this to people because I want to sell to them. That is my truth. That is what I believe. So they're still adjusting to it sometimes, you know, and trying to pick their way through it. But generally speaking, they're supportive. You know, my son is a complete non-believer. doesn't believe in God, doesn't believe in anything. I mean, he's only 14. He'll probably end up being a medium with that kind of attitude, but we'll see. And he doesn't believe in it at all. And that's fine because I don't push it on him. And I feel very strongly about that. You know, you don't have to believe what I believe. My work is not about forcing spirituality down people's throats until they acquiesce to my way of believing. And I think that's really important. It's just about me speaking my truth and feeling safe to speak my truth. But also within that, I allow others what I would like for myself, which is to be allowed to believe what I believe. So that's kind of where I'm at. And it is one of those things. I think lots of people, they go on the spiritual journey and I mean, it's so eye-opening, it's so life-changing, it's so profound, but then they start trying to ram it down people's throats who aren't quite ready, and you can actually put people off. I think about my journey. When I look back, there were loads of times and experiences and things that happened to me, but I didn't realize it was spirit. And I'm quite glad for that because it just gave me a gentle awakening into it. And I can reflect back on that time with wonder how we didn't pick up on what was happening, but also accepting that that's just right for me. It was never forced upon me. And I can remember when I first started sitting in a circle, I was really comfortable with the idea of ghosts and spirits. But as soon as anybody talked about angels, because that had a connection to the church for me, I would screw my face up like I was smelling a bad smell and sort of shut my energy down, not interested in that, don't want to get involved in that. And now I'm an angelic Reiki master teacher and I work with the angels all the time. But I know that they aren't judging me. They just knew I wasn't ready and I had to find my own way to them. They didn't force themselves on me. They let me arrive in my own time. And I think that's really important. My husband, bless him, I wouldn't say he's a believer. I would say that over time, with the stories that I've told and the things that have happened in the house, I mean, we've had lights turning on and off, TV turning on and off, things moving. He no longer denies it. He isn't fully comfortable with it. It's not his thing, and that's fine. You know what? He's a financial advisor, and when he talks about pensions, it's not my thing. So we are a good mix because we each have our own things, and he always lets me do what I want. He always lets me go on all the courses I want to go on and, take time away from the family and things like that. He's very, very supportive. He understands that for me, this is my complete passion. It's everything to me. Um, and so he does let me explore that as much as I want to and as much as I need to. Very, very supportive, but it's still not his cup of tea. And, he did say to me once, enough with the orb videos. I've seen enough orbs now. It's a light moving around. Please don't show me anymore. So yeah, you have to let people get there under their own steam. So I hope that makes sense. One of the things that was said to me on a shamanic course I did a little while ago, which really stuck with me, was that denying who you are is very damaging to your energy. So since I did that, I do always tell people now that I'm a medium. Whereas before, I used to sort of mumble something about being a Reiki healer and not really go into it because I was too afraid of people's reactions. And I think it's been a real rising of power within me when I started to say, I'm a medium, and letting people have whatever reaction they want to have to that. Sometimes it's positive, most of the time it's positive. Most people have a story that they've held on to that they want to share, but sometimes you do get negative reactions, and that's that. So yeah, I'm comfortable enough with myself and my work and my beliefs and the lessons that I've integrated to no longer feel like I need to apologize. I am who I am. I do what I do. So yeah, I hope that answers your question, Cece. I know that some people are very restricted by their families, and it's something I'm very aware of. Sometimes when we do courses and things like that, people do not want to be mentioned that they were on the course. They won't comment on my posts on Facebook purely because they don't want their relatives to know. And that's really sad for them, and they will have to find their own journeys within it. But again, I want to say, don't get caught up in that I must bring everyone in with me. It's not a cult, and I think so often we think that part of our work is to bring people into the light, and it's not. Our work is to be the light and allow that light to fall on people however it may. And when it does, they'll react however they need to react, but it's not our job to seed it in them. It's our job just to shine, and that will have an impact on them however it has an impact on them. So that's my take on it, and I know that my family have been on a journey with me as I've developed and talked to them more and more about what I do and what I've seen. It started them on their own journeys of questioning and understanding and where they're at, and that's fantastic. But it's not, I haven't felt compelled to bring it to them. It's just that actually when 95% of your day is working with the spirit world, you realize that you can't actually talk about anything else. Because I just can't. I used to try and keep it in a box, and now I've broken out the box and I can't even remember how to fit back in it. And sometimes I have conversations with people that are pure small talk, and I feel like I'm being really robotic and weird because I want to ask them how they feel. I want to ask what's going on with them. I want to ask what they're opening up to, what their potentials are, what their hopes are. And you have to say, hello, how are you? Yeah, I'm good. How are you? How's work? Good. Yes. Terrible weather, isn't it? Yep. Okay, then. Thanks very much. Bye. And I just find that really wooden now. It's sort of completely flipped. Okay, great. So I hope that helps, Cece, for your first question. I know you've got another one. Okay. Cherie Hughes has also emailed in, and she wants to know, where do people start with their journey? Is there a process that should be followed? Okay, so no, there isn't. And what I would say to anybody that wants to sort of start working with spirit is, one of the things that I love about spirituality is it's so big. There's so many different ways you can work with energy and healing and the spirit world and angels, ascended masters, crystals. There's so much that it almost feels overwhelming. And what I would say to you is, you need to do the things that light you up, the things that excite you, the things that fill you with a sense of wonder. And that's the number one rule for me for all spiritual development. In my journey, all the courses that I've done where I was so excited, there was this urgency, I've got to book it now, I've got to do it, I need to be a part of that, I have to be a part of it, have been the best courses. And the ones where my brain's got involved and I've looked at them and gone, oh, I really should do that because I have a gap in my knowledge, they've been the ones that have not been as fulfilling for me. So definitely it's about trusting your instincts, trusting your gut. You can join a development circle. And what a circle is it's a group of people who get together with the purpose of strengthening their connection to spirit. And the way that my guides showed it to me is that when you sit in a circle with other people, you're more than the sum of your parts. So if you think of us like batteries, if you put 4 AA batteries together, they would have more power than 4 individual AA batteries, but also more than 4 times AA batteries. It kind of magnifies. And that's what I think sitting in a circle does. It's not only about the dedicated effort and the dedicated practice of connecting to the spirit world, but it is also about the fact that you get bigger feelings, bigger energy, stronger connection in that space because your battery is ramped up by the support of others. Now, circles are a funny thing. As somebody that used to teach 5 circles a week, I can tell you that not everybody that wants to sit in a spiritual development circle is what I would call spiritual. Spirituality attracts lots of different types of energies, and not every circle will be the right circle for you. And so if you, when we can get out again, find that you are in a group and that group just doesn't resonate with you and you're not looking forward to working with them and you're not excited about it, it's not the group for you. And sometimes you have to kiss a few frogs before you find your prince. And that's okay. Not every teacher will be the teacher for you. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. Some people want a more formal teacher, and that's absolutely fine. I completely understand that, So you've got to find what works for you. I'd also be remiss if I didn't mention at this point that I have an online beginner's course which you can do, which was given to me by the Spirit World. It was a downloaded in stages from my team of guides. So I'm very, very proud of it. And that is an online one-on-one course that gives you the foundational knowledge for opening up to the Spirit World with angels, ancestors, crystals, oracle cards, everything like that. It gives you that basic knowledge so that when you want to and you're ready, if you move into a group, you've at least got the foundational knowledge. You're not starting from complete scratch. Because one of the things that I find is that people get nervous joining a group. So it's not only the fact that you've got to work with a group of strangers and find your place in that group and feel comfortable, but also if you don't know anything about it, don't know anything about mediumship, don't know anything about spirituality, it can be a little overwhelming. And I think that holds lots of people back. And you can find that, just so you know, on my website, www.readingsandreiki.co.uk, under the Learn section. There's details of the course on there. So there's no particular process, Cherie. I would do what suits you. Now, there's loads of amazing books out there. And when I first started, I really liked Ask Your Guides by Sonia Choquette. I hope that's how you say her surname. That was such an eye-opener for me about working with spirit guides and connecting to that energy. Was a fantastic book for me. I really like Denise Linn's Sacred Traveller Oracle cards for beginners and for me, as I am now. I think they are just beautiful cards. And one of the things that I say in the online course, which is really important to me, is don't read the book that comes with the oracle cards. Just allow spirit to show you the meaning of the messages on the cards. And I think those Sacred Traveller ones are really good because they've got just a little bit of information for you to direct your expectancy to be able to receive from spirit. But overall, they are just beautiful, lovely messages, really, really great cards to work with and open up your energy. So I got mine from Amazon. I didn't get mine from some posh spiritual place. And the thing for me is, regularity, practice. So pull yourself a card a day and don't expect to blow your mind in the first week or even the first month, but keep practicing and more information will come with you. And the other thing that I think is most important for everybody on the spiritual journey, absolutely everybody, is to create a space as often as you can to just connect to spirit. If you think of working with spirit like a muscle that needs to build, it's about just sitting with them and allowing them to step forward and strengthen that connection. Not with expectation, not with need, not with demand or command, just to allow them to step in and be with you. That is the basis of all good spirit work. Because if you're confident in that connection, when it comes to a stage where you need to do readings for people, you know that you can connect to them. You know what it feels like when they come in. You know that they are there. So that's how I started. I started in a circle, but I was connecting, and I still try. I'm not as dedicated to it as I should be, and I'm aware that that's something they want me to work on at the moment. In just sitting with spirit and surrendering, not needing anything, just being with them. So that's really important as well, and there's loads of guided meditations you can do and books you can read, and you have to go with your gut and what excites you and what lights you up, and that will not steer you wrong. Okay, I hope that answers your question. Let's have a look. Okay, so Cece again. After listening to your podcast today, I have a question about predicting the future. I agree that a good medium won't tell you what is going to happen, but does that mean that they don't ever see what could happen? I ask because since I was a child, I've had dreams that happen to occur in my waking life. I have found family secrets out through dreams, have connected with family and spirit, seen deaths, births, and been given vital information. Is this just another way for spirit to connect with us, or is it things I've picked up in my subconscious mind that are surfacing in my dream state? Bit of both maybe, but that doesn't mean that you're not connecting with spirit, and I would believe that you are. Now, what I believe is when you go to see a medium, in that moment they are looking at your energy and they are connecting to the potentials. And that's why I say that we can't tell the future, because people really want to be disempowered. People really want mediums to just tell them every single thing they should do, and that's not how it works. And the spirit world would never let us work in a way that resulted in people giving up their control and giving up their free will and feeling like it's this preordained path that they must tread. So that's what I mean by not seeing the future. But of course, there have been moments in my journey where I have seen things for people that I know are set in stone. Births and deaths are particularly good ones for that. I mean, birth is always a funny one. I get a lot of people that come to me that want to be told if they're going to be able to have a baby or not. And 9 times out of 10, the message that would accompany that, legally, I'm not allowed to talk about pregnancy or health issues, but the message that accompanies that is, well, you need to heal. And you know that if you need to heal and you're ignoring your healing and you're not loving yourself and you're not looking after yourself and you're not dealing with the things that you need to deal with and you are hiding from half of yourself, then you know that that's not a great space for a baby to grow in, for a seed to grow. So 9 times out of 10, that kind of message is there's hope there, there's potential for you, but you've got to do the work to make yourself compatible with carrying life. And I know that doesn't always work that way, but that's the way that 9 times out of 10, when people come to talk to me, that's the way it unfolds. So I do believe that you would have picked things up psychically from people's energy that would have told you that things were about to happen or that people had secrets. I don't think the spirit world share people's secrets. I think they're very respectful of the complicated mess that is humans and what's right to share. So sometimes as a psychic you can pick things up that you might not necessarily pick up from the spirit world because they will be respecting that person's privacy. And you can never go to a medium for a reading to know what's happening with somebody else, like will my ex come back or are they thinking of me, because that's your ex's energy and they haven't agreed to be read. So as a medium, I would never do that. That's completely wrong to go sniffing around in somebody's energy who hasn't agreed to it. So, but we do pick up things without meaning to as we walk around our world, as we connect to people and talk to people. And so I think that's partly you processing that energy, Cece. And of course, sometimes you will be right. And also, I do believe that our loved ones in spirit draw close when we are asleep because we are out of the way. Our questioning, conscious, needy mind is silenced when we sleep, which means that our loved ones who are always around us all the time can communicate with our souls. So that's, I think, when we dream about loved ones in spirit is them stepping forward to be with us. And it's easier. And funnily enough, I just watched The Sixth Sense with my daughter this week. It reminded me why I've always loved this. I think it must have been instrumental in setting me on my path because I wanted to help people. I wanted to help people who were living and I wanted to help people in the spirit world. But of course, in that, somebody talks to somebody who is asleep. I don't want to give spoilers away for anyone who hasn't watched it. And, that is really, really how I believe it works. We can surrender more when we are asleep. So yes, sometimes you do get impressions of things that are going to happen. So you might get an impression that somebody's going to be promoted at work, for example. And you could say, I can see change, positive change coming up in your future. But if that person, that sitter, then decides that they are the big Billy Bollocks of the world and they are now going to go into work like, oh yeah, I'm going to get promoted because I'm amazing and spirit told me so, and their boss feels that energy from them and goes, oh, I thought they were completely different, but actually they're like that, I don't want to promote them anymore. Then it won't unfold the same way. Does that make sense? So it's all about potentials in that moment when you're reading somebody's energy. And of course, it's up to them, the steps that they take to create that and feed that potential or starve it, depending on what they want and what they decide to do. So it's not a future that's set in stone. It's a future that changes on a breath, just like sliding doors. I'm full of films today, aren't I? But that's, that's how I believe it works. I hope that makes sense. I hope that answers your question, Cece. I've forgotten how I started now. I feel like I've been talking for so long. Okay, Cat Beaver sent me a message saying, do you recommend any forums for people interested in mediumship or beginners? No. That's the straightest answer I can give you, because the problem is every medium has their own set of beliefs. Every medium has their own way that they believe we should work. Every medium should be, if they're a good medium, on a journey. They shouldn't be thinking they know it all. They should be trying to open up more and more and learn more and more. And so I can only talk about my groups and my teaching. And to be honest with you, I just haven't had time nor the inclination to go into other mediums groups and work out if their views and beliefs are in alignment with mine. And that's probably not very helpful, but that's the best I can say. It's really interesting to me. In the summer, I was sent some screenshots by some people who followed my page from some other well-known mediums, and this was many other well-known mediums, much more famous mediums than me. And they were doing things like texting people and saying, I've got a man in the spirit world here. Is it dad? Is it granddad? Call my team of psychics to find out now. And that was just the most horrifying thing. Oh, it's just horrendous. And it really upset me. And I did a big post about it. And the reason why it upsets me so much is that's not how mediumship works. Mediumship is a three-way street. You have the person in the spirit world who wants to make contact. You have the medium, but you also have the sitter, the person who's looking for the connection. And without those three things, you're not working in a space where you're connecting properly. So I don't believe that spirit come in. They certainly never have with me and tap me on the shoulder and tell me it's time to do a mail shot to my mailing list and tell them. And the other thing with that is, imagine if you're a mum whose son has sadly died and you get that text and it tells you there's a man in spirit waiting, and you ring that premium rate call centre and he's not there because that medium, it was a junk mail text. It wasn't real. It was sent to thousands and thousands of people. And of course, that medium on the line can't get hold of your son because he hadn't stepped forward. Can you imagine what it would be like? You'd think you'd missed them. You'd think you'd got it wrong. You'd think if you'd just called a little bit sooner that they'd be there waiting for you. You'd think that you maybe let them down because you weren't there. It's just horrendous, a horrendous practice. And it really opened up my eyes because I'm a bit of naive, I guess is the word. And, the spirit world has been so amazing to me and so loving to me. And to realise that there were other mediums out there that aren't working in what I would call love and aren't working with integrity was a real shock. And I guess it's obvious, but it wasn't obvious to me. And I was so surprised. I had to really integrate that. So as a result, I don't know. I don't know what other forums are like. I don't know um, what's being said the right way. I know that there's lots of bad teaching out there, and I know that there's lots of good teaching out there. And I guess the best way I can describe it to you is you've got to just work out what resonates with you, but always be questioning, always. I mean, that's how I learned. I remember asking Spirit if I questioned too much and I needed to surrender more, and they just said, no, this is how you learn. Keep questioning, keep questioning. And I always have, and I've always sat with my spirit guides and just said, explain this to me, and is this right, and what do I need to do about that, so that I could work out what I wanted to incorporate into my practice and what I wanted to discard, what resonated with me and what felt untrue to me, what needed exploration. And, if you've been listening to all these podcasts, you'll know that, sometimes I sit with things for 2 years to work out where I'm at with them and what it makes sense to me. And I allow it to unfold. That's the key. So there's lots of information out there, and you have to find what feels right to you. And like I said earlier, you have to find the teachers that resonate with you. And that's the most important thing. Okay, right. Aaron Edwards, you're going to be impressed with this, Aaron, because you messaged me an hour ago. And it just so happened that that's what I was working through today. So, it's all ordained, isn't it? Okay. You wanted to say, hi, Hannah. I hope this finds you well. I've never emailed into a show before, so this is really weird. Yeah, I know. You're welcome. I've never received emails like this before, but I love it, Aaron. So I'm really glad that you have. I'm really glad that you're enjoying the podcast. Okay. So you found out you were capable of mediumship back in October after a spiritual awakening and a reading with a medium who's become your mentor. Fantastic. I'm part of a development circle and I don't have any problem reading people, objects, or artwork. It comes to me mostly clairvoyantly. For those of you who don't know what that means seeing the information in your mind's eye. And I'm very rarely wrong or incorrect. I should be a 100% believer, but sadly I'm not. I'm just wondering if you had any tips or tricks for novice medium listeners like myself who might be a bit skeptical or doubt themselves. Did you always believe 100% that you were talking to the deceased? Did you have a weird skeptical stage where you didn't know what was going on? I always want to believe I'm contacting spirits, but I doubt myself and worry I'm just amazing at guessing or somehow just reading the other person's mind, as daft as that sounds. Okay, it feels weird to be a skeptical medium. Yeah, it does, but I'm a skeptical medium too, Aaron. We should get badges. I think that's the right way. I have to say, the best mediums I've ever seen have been skeptical mediums, and the ones that are gung-ho and just think they've got it and never try, they always feel a little bit hollow to me, actually. So, yes, I have often doubted that I was really talking to somebody, and I still do. And these are the things that I would like to say to you about this. Spirit are really subtle. I think that we think that when spirits step forward and really step forward, we'll be able to feel them. There'll be some sort of big shift in the energy and we'll go, woo, somebody's here. And that has happened to me a couple of times. But the only time that's actually happened is when I've not been seeking spirit, but when spirit have wanted me to give a message. So like things I've talked about in previous podcasts with my first ever message, I felt her. But generally speaking, when I'm reading for somebody, it doesn't feel like there's anyone there. It feels like I could be making it up. And I often have that sort of rising of nerves within me where I go, oh my God, what the hell is this? And then I just have to go with it. And I would like to tell you that had gone, but it hasn't. After 10 years, it's still there. I would like to tell you that it doesn't affect me anymore, but it does. I just have to sort of breathe through it and trust. And I guess, just keep practicing, Aaron. Keep going for it, because that will really give you a confidence in it that, the only reason why I'm able to do it is because I just go, well, I was right last time, so chances are I'm going to be right this time. And as you move on your journey, spirit will test that within you. I know that I had someone come for a reading with me once, and I said to her, I've got your granddad here, and I could tell what football team he supported, and I could talk about his personality. And she just said no to everything. And I said, I'm so sorry, I don't know what's happening here because he's so clear to me. And she said, well, I never met my granddad, so I don't know if you're right or wrong. And that didn't mean it was no, it just meant she hadn't met him. And it took her a long time to message me back and say, I've checked with my mum and everything you said was right. That was my granddad. So as you move with spirit and you grow with spirit, it's not all handed to you on a plate. They will test your resilience. They will test your trust to just say what you're seeing, even when you're getting no's. You have to get no's, you have to check, you have to go back. But yeah, it's definitely about growing that communication and that strength and trust in yourself. Somebody once said to me, you don't trust the spirit world. And I was horrified. And I went and meditated on it and connected to my guides. And they helped me to see that it wasn't that I don't trust spirit, it's that I didn't trust my ability to hear spirit. I had no problem in believing that spirit was around, just in my ability to be able to pick up on that information. And I think also working psychically, so energy to energy, so all that stuff that you're good at, reading people's energy, is a great foundation for your mediumship. But it's always, I think, slightly easier because it's easier to interpret. And sometimes when we work psychically, it's easier to be a bit fluffier. So what I would say is this, when you work psychically with somebody, you can say things like, I know you're worried about somebody that's close to you. And that's often as far as people go with psychic. And I've been working with one of my teachers actually on trying to expand my psychic to being more specific, because that's kind of where we leave it. But when we work with a loved one in spirit, we say, I know they had this many children, or it's you try to be more evidential in mediumship, but actually we need to try and be more evidential in all of it, psychic and mediumship. So, and that of course does press buttons. It does make you nervous. It does feel there's a vulnerability that you need to have with mediumship to be a good medium. And that's so important to doing a good job and wanting to do a good job and all of those things. So it sounds to me like you're in the right place. It's good to be a bit skeptical. It's good because I'm skeptical, and there does reach a point where it can become damaging. So don't allow it to become damaging, but it's good to push your limits. It's good to try a bit harder. It's good to want to get that piece of evidence that you couldn't possibly know, because when you get a piece of evidence you couldn't possibly know, that's how you know that you're connected to spirit. And I've had lots of different moments like that. Of course, being me, I only ever focus on the bits I got not quite as good as I'd have liked. But I can remember doing a live, and all of a sudden this dad showed me the JCB logo. And I remember saying it and going like, oh, I don't know, JCB logo, I don't know why, I think I'm seeing diggers. And she just sold his JCB farming equipment. So it was so specific. But as I was giving it, I was thinking it was rubbish. So, yeah, I think we all have to be, we are a little skeptical, and that's good because it will push you forward and it will light the fire under you for more. The other thing I would suggest, I don't know how open your development group are to suggestions, but doing blind readings is also a great way of working both psychically and mediumistically, so you don't know who you're reading for, because then you don't know whether you're getting it because you can look at their expression and you can see whether they like it, or whether it's because you know them a bit, or you can, it just takes out all of that control, all of that worry about your brain. Just helps you to work completely in the dark, and in that there's a kind of freedom. So I would suggest that if you haven't tried that, because that's always really good. It's a big button presser though. Okay, I hope that helps, Aaron. I hope that makes sense. Okay, my one other thing that I want to talk about is, just because I get messaged it probably 5 times a week, and that is, how long after passing can you go for a reading to hear from somebody? Now, to the spirit world, there is no time. Time is a human construct, and I think I've talked about this before. So, because there is no time, there is no time that they need to be healed to come back. And I think that's really important. So, what it is, and forgive me if I've mentioned this before, but I've again had like 5 messages to this over the weekend, is that your loved ones in spirit are fine. Your loved ones in spirit have moved to the spirit world, which is the land of light and love. They have gone back to spirit. So they're fully healed, fully whole, and they're, working through what life was like on earth for them and what they needed to learn. But they've worked through that instantly because there is no time. And when we want to go for a reading with a medium to connect to a loved one in spirit, it's actually who we are ready to hear from. It's who we are able to communicate with. And that's really, really important to understand, because lots of mediums, I think, are afraid of saying this. So they always say, well, they need so many weeks in the spirit world and stuff like this. But time doesn't exist over there. So they don't need any weeks over there. It's just whether we're ready to hear from them. And the spirit world are really, really clever. And so they know if they come through, it could cause damage. It could cause upset. So really you have to look at yourself and whether you're in a place where you're ready to have a reading. And part of that will be if you're ready to hear from whoever the spirit world brings through, not just somebody specific. Because if you really only want to hear from one particular person, then you're not quite ready for a reading. Because sometimes that one particular person knows that if they come through to you, it's going to push back your healing, or it's going to open up a wound that you don't need opening right now, or you've not quite dealt with the fact that they've gone. And so it's really, really hard. But I think a lot of mediums say you have to wait for your loved ones in spirit to be ready. I don't think that they are the problem. I think it's us. And I understand that that's difficult and painful, but I also think that that is the right way, if that makes sense. So that's why we always say we can't guarantee who will come through to you, because we have to trust in the spirit world that the right people will come through. Now, I do allow people when they book with me to request for their second reading. I do 2 spirit links, and I do allow them to request somebody if there's someone in particular, but through the booking process they will have been told I can't guarantee that I can get them in. And that's, they should be fully aligned with that before they book with me, because I know that people want to hear from people, but it doesn't mean that they will. And I've had, lots of experiences like this where people just aren't ready. They just, you get somebody through for them and you just know that it's not who they wanted to hear from, and they're almost rude to the spirit that's come in because they don't want to hear from them. And it's so sad. I understand, if your child has passed, or someone who was really, really close to you perhaps don't want to hear from your grandmother. But if you just allow and you sit in a space where you can just receive that evidence, whether you hear from the person you want to hear from or not, it's still evidence that the spirit world is there, and evidence of the continued existence of the human spirit. So that should bring you some comfort within that. I hope she won't mind me mentioning, but somebody I know who sits in one of my circles, her husband passed into the spirit world, and it was just horrendous. She was so young to lose her husband, and she sat with me in a development circle, having readings, coming to all of my demonstrations for years, and he never came through. And I can remember a distinct moment when I got a work colleague of hers through in a demonstration, and she was so receptive and joyful. I mean, I'm sure in the darkest moment she was fed up and wondering why he wasn't coming, but she was so able to receive messages from other people, even ones where there was no real big emotional, real big pull, just evidence that they were around her. That, she went on such a journey with that, and it was so amazing. And when he was eventually able to come through to her, he said, "You weren't ready, and I've just been waiting for you to tell me you're ready." And it was so amazing, such an amazing reading when he did come through. And then since then, I think he has come through a couple of times because he just needed her to be in a space where she could be glad to hear from him, and it wasn't so raw and so damaging to her energy. So there. Right, well, that's listeners' questions done. I've rambled on for 44 minutes, everybody. If you have a question, please do email podcast@hannahmedium.co.uk. That's podcast@hannahmedium.co.uk. And I will get round to answering them as soon as I can. But I've really enjoyed it. I've loved having people's questions. I love them. So be weird like Aaron and drop those emails in because I love it. It gives me some direction on what people want to hear and what you want to talk about. So thanks very much as always, guys, and I'll catch up with you soon.